Guided reading instructions. Let's read the directions first together. Directions. Read the passage below. Use the questions in the margin to guide your reading. Then answer the questions that follow. Guide my reading. That lets me know that I should probably read the question first. I do see that each question, if I look over here in the guided questions, has a number. And if I look in the reading has a number too. So that tells me which question corresponds with which part of the reading. This reading is called 11 by Sandra Cisneros. The first question, I'm going to read it first and then read part 1 and then come back and answer my question. So let's look at the guided question. What does this paragraph tell you about Rachel? Okay, so now I know that I'm looking for information about Rachel. As I read, that's what I'm going to be keeping in the back of my mind. 11 by Sandra Cisneros. See, it's okay if we mispronounce things or have a hard time because they're names and they are different. Okay. What they don't understand about birthdays and what they never tell you is that when you're 11, you're also 10 and 9 and 8 and 7 and 6 and 5 and 4 and 3 and 2 and 1. And when you wake up on your 11th birthday, you expect to feel 11, but you don't. You open your eyes and everything's just like you're still 10. And you are, underneath the year that makes you 11. Like some days you might say something stupid, and that's the part of you that's still 10. Or maybe some days you might need to sit on your mama's lap because you're scared, and that's the part of you that's 5. And one day when you're all grown up, maybe you will need to cry, like if you're 3, and that's okay. That's what I tell Mama when she's sad and needs to cry. Maybe she's feeling 3. Okay, I'm going to stop because that's the end of part 1. And I'm going to look back to my guided question. What does this paragraph tell you about Rachel? Well, actually, I never heard the name Rachel, and that's okay. I'm going to infer that the paragraph is about Rachel, and that she is the speaker that we hear in the paragraph. So what does this paragraph tell you about Rachel? Well, right away it says, talking about birthdays and that she's turning 11. So I'm going to answer the question that I know that she's 11. So let's go ahead and fill that in. This paragraph, I'm going to use a complete sentence. This paragraph tells me that Rachel is 11. And I want you to complete the sentence. What else does it tell us about Rachel? Okay, so anything that you can see in that paragraph that is information about Rachel, she's so far the only character we know, so we can use any character traits that we might find about Rachel. Remember, character traits are adjectives that describe the character. Go ahead and complete the sentence now. If you need to push pause, go ahead and do that. When you're done, let's move on to question 2. I'm going to read that before I move on. Why does the author compare growing older to the rings inside the tree trunk in describing Rachel's thoughts about turning 11? What does this tell you about Rachel? Okay. Okay. I'm going to keep this question in mind as I read part 2. Because the way you grow old is kind of like an onion, or like the rings inside a tree trunk, or like my little wooden dolls that fit one inside the other, each year inside the next one. That's how being 11 years old is. Okay, that very first paragraph in part 2 is answering my question. It says, why does the author compare growing older to the rings inside a tree trunk in describing Rachel's thoughts about turning 11? What does she compare the rings inside a tree trunk to? Okay, this is what type of figurative language? We've looked at this type of figurative language before. One hint is where it says the word like. Oops, I'm way off with my pen. That's okay. Miss Donaldson is getting used to this. Right? Which type of figurative language uses like or as to compare something? Once you identify the figurative language, you can see what is she comparing a tree trunk to. Go ahead and answer that first part of the question. Now, push pause and answer it. And then when you're done, unpause and we'll keep reading. Okay, you don't feel 11, not right away. It takes a few days, weeks even, sometimes even months before you say 11 when they ask you. And you don't feel 11, not until you're almost 12. That's the way it is. Only today I wish I didn't have just 11 years rattling inside me like pennies in a tin Band-Aid box. Today I wish I was 102 instead of 11. Because if I was 102, I'd have known what to say when Mrs. Price put the red sweater on my desk. I would have known how to tell her it wasn't mine instead of just sitting there with that look on my face and nothing coming out of my mouth. Whose is this? Mrs. Price says, and she holds the red sweater up in the air for the class to see. Whose? It's been sitting in the coat room for a month. Not mine, everybody says. Not me. Okay, let's go back to our question. We already answered the first part about the simile. And now we need to answer the second part. What does this tell you about Rachel? Go ahead and push pause and answer question 2 now. Let's look at the answer to number 2. If you have something similar, then you are ready to move on to 3. I said the author compares growing older to the rings inside a tree trunk because Rachel thinks turning 11 is like having 1 year inside the next one. I also said this paragraph tells me Rachel is timid. Timid means shy because she won't admit that the sweater is hers. All right, let's look at part 3, question 3 first. What problem does the girl have? All right, I'm going to look for a problem as I read part 3 of the story. It has to belong to somebody, Mrs. Price keeps saying, but nobody can remember. It's an ugly sweater with red plastic buttons and a collar and sleeves all stretched out like they could use it for a jump rope. It's maybe 1,000 years old, and even if it belonged to me, I wouldn't say so. Maybe because I'm skinny. Maybe because she doesn't like me. That stupid Felice Garcia says, I think it belongs to Rachel. All right, so what problem does the girl have? Go ahead and write down what you think the problem the girl has. Go ahead and hit pause and write your answer. Okay, check your answer with mine. The girl's problem is that she is too shy to say the sweatshirt is not hers. Let's move on to question number 4. What can you infer about Rachel in this paragraph? Remember, infer is to try to make a guess using what we know about the story. All right, part 4. An ugly sweater like that, all raggedy and old, but Mrs. Price believes her. Mrs. Price takes the sweater and puts it right on my desk. But when I open my mouth, nothing comes out. All right, go ahead and answer. What can you infer about Rachel in this paragraph? Push pause now. Go ahead and check your answer with mine. I said I can infer that Rachel wants to tell the teacher it's not her sweater. Even though the story doesn't tell us that, I can infer that based on what I know about Rachel. All right, let's turn the page to the next part. It looks like we have some more part 4 to finish reading. That's okay, let's do that. That's not, I don't, you're not mine, I finally say in a little voice that was maybe me when I was 4. Okay, so now we see the same thing. She's not able to say it even though she wants to. So she's feeling 4 right now. Let's move on to number 5. Let's look at the question. Rachel doesn't say anything back to Mrs. Price, who insists that the sweater is Rachel's. What does this tell you about Rachel? All right, let's keep reading. Of course it's yours, Mrs. Price says. I remember you wearing it once. Because she's older and a teacher, she's right and I'm not. Not mine, not mine, not mine, but Mrs. Price is already turning to page 32 and math problem number 4. I don't know why, but all of a sudden I'm feeling sick inside. Like the part of me that's 3 wants to come out of my eyes, only I squeeze them shut tight and bite down on my teeth real hard and try to remember today I am 11. 11. Mama is making a cake for me tonight, and when Papa comes home, everybody will sing happy birthday to you. Okay, go ahead and answer number 5. Push pause at this time and write it down, and then we'll check with my answer. Okay, let's check your answer 5 with my answer. This tells me Rachel respects adults and does not question them, even if sometimes she should. Let's look at question number 6 before we move on in the story. Rachel decides to silently push the sweater to the edge of the desk. What does this tell you about her? Let's read part 6 and see what we can answer. But when the sick feeling goes away and I open my eyes, the red sweater's still sitting there like a big red mountain. I move the red sweater to the corner of my desk with my ruler. I've moved my pencil and books and eraser as far from it as possible. I even moved my chair a little to the right. Not mine, not mine, not mine. In my head, I'm thinking how long till lunch, how long till I can take the red sweater and throw it over the schoolyard fence, or leave it hanging on a parking meter, or bunch it up into a little ball and toss it in the alley. Except when math period ends, Mrs. Price says loud and in front of everybody, "Now, Rachel, that's enough," because she sees I've shoved the red sweater to the tippy-tip corner of my desk, and it's hanging all over the edge like a waterfall. But I don't care. "Rachel," Miss Price says. She says it like she's getting mad. "You put that sweater on right now, and no more nonsense." "But it's not." "Now," Mrs. Price says. Okay, go ahead and answer the question. What does Rachel pushing the sweater to the edge of the desk tell us about her? Make sure you answer in a complete sentence. Push pause now, and then we'll check with my answer. Question 6, I answered with, "This tells me Rachel is quietly standing up for herself by pushing the sweater away." Let's look at question 7, and then we'll read part 7. What emotion is Rachel feeling in this paragraph? Okay, so we're looking for an emotion that she's feeling. Let's read it. "This is when I wish I wasn't 11, because all the years inside of me, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, are pushing at the back of my eyes when I put one arm through one sleeve of the sweater that smells like cottage cheese, and then the other arm through the other, and stand there with my arms apart as if the sweater hurts me, and it does, all itchy and full of germs that aren't even mine. That's when everything I've been holding in since this morning, since when Mrs. Price put the sweater on my desk, finally lets go, and all of a sudden I'm crying in front of everybody. I wish I was invisible, but I'm not. I'm 11 and it's my birthday today, and I'm crying like I'm 3 in front of everybody. I put my head down on my desk and bury my face in my stupid clown sweater arms, my face all hot and spit coming out of my mouth because I can't stop the little animal noises from coming out of me until there aren't any more tears left in my eyes, and it's just my body shaking like when you have the hiccups, and my whole head hurts like when you drink milk too fast." Let's turn the page. "But the worst part is right before the bell rings for lunch. That stupid Phyllis Lopez, who is even dumber than Felice Garcia, says she remembers the wet sweater is hers. I take it off right away and give it to her. Only Miss Price pretends like everything's okay." All right, let's go back to question number 7 and answer. What emotion is Rachel feeling in this paragraph? Go ahead and try to answer on your own in a complete sentence, and then check with my answer. Hit pause now. For question number 6, I answered, "This tells me," oops, we already did question number 6. Let's move on to question number 7. What emotion is Rachel feeling in this paragraph? Rachel is feeling frustrated in this paragraph. If you have frustrated as her emotion or something similar, then you did a great job. If you did not have it, that's okay. Go ahead and write it down now. Let's look at question number 8. Why is it too late? Okay, so we're looking for a reason. That's what that why means, why it's too late. Let's read. "Today I'm 11. There's a cake Mama's making for tonight, and when Papa comes home from work, we'll eat it. There'll be candles and presents, and everybody will sing happy birthday to you, Rachel, only it's too late." Okay, go ahead and answer. Why is it too late? Why is Rachel saying that? Hit pause and then come back to check with my answer.